Take a 1967 Mustang, strip away all the rust and original paint, have it re-chromed and repainted. You just did automotive history a huge service. Take a vintage watch, strip it from its indices, logo, and paint, and have it redialed. You just did watchmaking history a huge disservice. Let's jump right into the subject. Why is it that most vintage watch collectors, generally speaking, frown upon redialed watches? Let's answer this question through a modern perspective. Let's say someone buys a modern Omega DeVille dress watch. He doesn't respect the specs, so he jumps into the pool with that watch, goes swimming for a couple of hours, and then realizes that there's water in the case, the movement stopped working, and humidity is very apparent on the dial. So he decides to forget the watch for 2-3 years in the back of a drawer. Then realizes that he wants to sell the piece, so he has it serviced. The watch starts working. It's a modern movement, modern case. The dial is original, but he realizes that there's decay. It's no longer presentable to be sold. So he gives it to someone to remove the indices, the logo, to strip away the original finishing and paint and have it redialed. Would you still consider that piece to be authentic? Would you consider buying that piece? The answer of most of you would be no. So why not apply the same rule of thumb with vintage watches? Why would it then be okay to buy a redialed vintage watch only because of its age? When you look down a watchmaker's loop and stare at a dial, if it's redialed, all that's going to show are the flaws of the person that worked on it. The fantastic details that the factory intended you to see, appreciate, and enjoy are simply no longer there. Great part of the authenticity of the piece has been lost. Now, reason number 2 why most vintage watch collectors stay away from redials is the profit margin that these sellers try to make off the uninformed buyer. A few sellers are honest. For instance, 5 days ago, this Rolex Oyster Perpetual was listed in a reputable vintage watch dealer's website. He did say that the dial was restored.
Why didn't you tell me? You told me Vader betrayed and murdered my father.
Your father was seduced by the dark side of the Force. He ceased to be Anakin Skywalker and became Darth Vader. When that happened, the good man who was your father was destroyed. So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
A certain point of view?
But his listing of this particular watch that is now sold, as you can see, was over $3,000. An authentic, all-original Oyster Perpetual from the same reference will probably cost you $3,850. A $700 to $800 difference. What piece would you go for? Don't you think it would be worth it to be a little more patient, save your money, and buy an authentic piece that you could enjoy? I bet you the answer is yes. Those are the 2 simple reasons why we vintage watch collectors stay away from redials. Tune in next time, guys, on Simply Vintage Watches.